Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Very good afternoon for all those who have joined me from Europe, and very early morning for if any friends joining from Americas. My name is Rakesh Sinha. I'm the co-founder for Shared Services Forum SSF Global. I am also the founder of Quintus Global. Delighted to be here today with a bunch of very seasoned senior leaders along with me on this panel, where we are going to deliberate on a topic which is the very burning opportunity for each of the organizations to deliberate, exchange notes, and then even embrace and adopt in their organization. We are going to talk about what we call transforming business functions and how the power of tech integrated enterprise functions can really be taken to the full potential is something which we are going to deliberate over the next 60 minutes and so. As we jump into the panel conversation, I would take an opportunity as a typical customary opportunity to share briefly about SSF Global. SSF Global is a forum of practitioners from the technology, enterprise functions, and GCC space. It's a forum by the practitioners who, again, lead many of these transformational initiatives and GCC organizations and technology areas across the globe. The commitment and the intent of SSF is to bring the cross-organizational learnings across the industry, learning through success stories, use cases, what's happening, what is the best practices, and how that best practices can also be carved out into the next practices. As a part of SSF, we have a lot of focus on research, proprietary frameworks for organizations to compare where they stand vis-a-vis the best practices or a benchmark, and also encourage organizations and leaders by excellence awards and recognition. As part of this journey of knowledge dissemination, we have in-person events, we have virtual events, full day, half day, functional focus, etc., etc. Today, what we are going to have is a brief 60 minutes of what we call leadership interaction. Now, with this, I jump into today's topic and today's deliberation, where I have a privilege of having a very seasoned panel along with me, and I'll request my fellow panelists to switch on their videos so that we can just introduce ourselves briefly. And as we do that, the host is going to put the full profile of the speakers here in the chat box, as well as it will be available if you're going to watch it later on the portal. You will find the profiles of the speakers available there as well. But given it's my responsibility of being a moderator to briefly talk about and welcome my fellow panelists, so I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Sanjeev Rastogi. He's the partner and head of Capability Enhancement Center, Deloitte, India. Sanjeev brings over 27 years of extensive experience in setting up, managing large operations in the shared services and business process outsourcing space. In his previous roles, he has been the managing director of Syngenta Services. Prior to Syngenta, he was the operations director with Metro GBS and led leadership roles and controllership functions at HP, Xerox, Accenture, Standard Chartered Bank, and American Express. Sanjeev believes that desire, dedication, and discipline are essential for success. And as a leader, you should always walk the talk and treat everyone the way you wish to be treated. He is very regular to many industry forums and is a great contributor to this industry forums as well. The full profile is available in the chat box from SSF. Warm welcome to you, Dr. Sanjeev Rastogi.
Thanks, Rakesh, and good evening, everyone.
Next, we have Mr. Pablo D. Ayala. He's the global CIO with Avolta, formerly called Dufry, Pablo is a seasoned, well-established executive with a dynamic career spanning over 2 decades, primarily focusing on business and technology transformations in various sectors such as banking, consulting, and retail. As the global CIO of Avolta, he has been pivotal in managing a substantial global network of shops and restaurants. He is very proficient in the topic which we are going to deliberate today, which is artificial intelligence, having recently implemented AI initiatives in his organizations to enhance operational efficiency. He's a executive MBA from ESSEC and Mannheim Business Schools and a master's in computer science from Universidad DA Corona, and a lot of achievements around, especially in AI. So warm welcome to you, Pablo, and we are looking forward to learn a lot from you today.
Thank you, Rakesh, and hello, everyone.
We have an opportunity to have Dr. Oliver Ulf. He's a senior advisor for Genpact, and he has been advising in a senior advisor capacity many other companies following his role with global director in Metro Group and CEO of Metro Services, which is a BPO organization of Metro. Since 2010, he has implemented a strong self-learning organization with 4 hubs in Germany, India, Poland, and Russia to centralize administrative functions such as accounting, reporting, buying, and several other across 20+ countries with Metro Group worldwide. He held the positions in past as Group CFO of CWS Boko International, where the company was present across 18 countries. Oliver started his career at PricewaterhouseCoopers in Hamburg and New York. He holds a degree in business administration. He's a doctorate in economic sciences from studies in Germany, Switzerland, France, and Singapore. He loves cooking and playing golf with enormous rooms for improvement, as he says. So warm welcome to you, Dr. Oliver Hope. We are delighted to have you here today.
Thank you very much for welcoming me.
We have Mr. Serge DeVos. He's a Vice President, Global Business Services, Kraft Heinz. Serge has, as he says, he has grown through a non-traditional career, spanning multiple functions and countries, starting roles with B2B sales, IT operations management with a tech service provider. And then he moved into a CPG company where he led logistics, supply chain, and finally landed up into a global business services role. He's passionate about operational excellence, talent management, and driving turnarounds. He has a philosophy or a motto, create your legacy. He inspires his teams to learn, grow, and deliver unseen results in every role he takes. He is most proud of his recent recognition, which is Top 100 Great People Manager by Forbes India in 2021. He is married, happily married, with 3 kids, and tries to stay fit doing triathlon. So warm welcome to you, Serge. Delighted to have you here today.
Thank you, Rakesh. Great to be here, man.
Right. Last but not least, very important leader, Mr. Urs Ulrich Kahr-Jenstein. He's the head of business development and transformation, Continental Europe, Quintus Global. He's a seasoned business leader with over 3 decades of international experience, about 20 years in global leadership management roles, including pivotal role as the managing director of Metro Global Business Services, where he led a team of 700 colleagues, achieved over 40% growth in 2.5 years, fostered leadership talents for succession planning, demonstrated mastery in automation, digitalization, and robotics, leading to increased efficiency by 25%. He has led large digital transformation and strategic initiatives like group-wide migration to SAP HANA. Over his long career, he has worked with marquee companies like in his recent role as head of IT for Bell Food Group, before that with Metro AG, and many others. Urs is skilled at developing new approaches and building highly motivated teams. He used to working in a multicultural environment with professional experience in different countries and with people from different backgrounds. He values teamwork combined with an entrepreneurial spirit as well as to reach goals with a positive attitude. He is based out of Basel, Switzerland, and recently joined Quintus Global. Warm welcome, Urs. Delighted to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be in this panel.
So, ladies and gentlemen, whoever have joined live and who is going to watch it later, you can see, the kind of panel I have got, and I think I have been telling all these gentlemen that I have a bad throat for the last few days due to cold, and I was not sure how we'll be able to manage this conversation, but I feel very comfortable because I know they will do a great justice, and not just justice, they will also inspire us with the kind of experience they have got to share with us today. Without further much ado, I would like to get into quickly in terms of the topic and get some opening comments from the seasoned panelists here. There's an interesting one, and I think this is where this term, and I'll set a bit of a context before just jumping into any question. For last 20 years, everybody has been talking about something like ITS, IT services, and ITES, IT-enabled services, like business services, shared services, enterprise services, whatever you call it. It was still seen as an IT-enabled services. And SSF Global, as a part of its focus to take a leap and think of what next, said what 20 years ago, if you were saying it is enabled, how can you still say it is enabled? It has to be something more. And then we had a lot of research around that. And then we created this term called tech integrated. And there's a full framework which we created called tech integrated enterprise services. So that's the overall context in which we would like to have this dialogue. But as we start, I would like to hear some opening comments from the panelists here. And maybe I'll request Sanjeev, if you want to go first with a quick comment and just keep it brief, my request as an opening comment. How do you see this entire, tech-driven transformation, which is influencing this business functions? How you've seen over the recent years, things evolving and changing? A quick comment from you, and then I'll go to Urs, maybe for his comment, and maybe Pablo, a quick comment from you before we go to the next set of the questions. So Sanjeev, a quick comment from you would be helpful.
Yeah. So Rakesh, with the advent of technology and new technologies coming in, and the change in the preference and demand of the customers, the enterprises are forced to adopt technologies and bringing everything together, right from sourcing to manufacturing to logistics, supply chain, and to selling. And everything has to be tech-enabled for a complete solution to the customer. So I think that's a need of the hour. Most of the companies are embracing these technologies. But more importantly, one more comment, it's not about technology, it's people and process which needs to be integrated as well and which needs to be on board. And I think that you will cover as part of the topic. So I think this is something which is already started 3-4 years back, and we'll see a lot and more companies integrating all that functions to deliver what the customer wants and customer needs today.
Great. I think it's a good point that there's a huge shift which you also can see. While few implementation points from the people, etc., we'll talk about that, but there's a shift which you can see very much there. A quick comment from you, Urs, will be helpful.
Yeah, I would also agree with what Sanjeev said, that the people are in the center. The technology integration allows us to leverage the people to more strategic tasks, to more operational, meaningful tasks than just repetitive tasks. And it allows us to leverage also the efficiency throughout the organization and reduce people doing these repetitive tasks and then allowing them to do more value-added tasks. So the integration throughout the organization, it gets stronger and stronger. In the beginning, we started with island solutions, and the total integration of an organization and a function is very essential for that.
Excellent. Great. I think what you're saying is how organizations are moving from these island solutions to an enterprise-wide thinking when it comes to technology and reaping benefits is a very important point. A quick comment from you, Pablo, and maybe then I'll go to Oliver as well, and then I'll come to you, Serge, on this whole quick context. So Pablo, your comment, please.
Sure. I agree absolutely that it's not only technology, it's also people and processes, and reinforcing what Sanjeev was saying. Today, what we see in the big corporations is that focusing on the customer is priority number one, and focusing on the customer means a lot of different processes, business processes impacted. What we see is that the only way to approach this in a cohesive manner and in a consistent manner is to have a consolidation of technology that allows the different departments to have the end-to-end visibility and also to act on it.
That's another very important point, and I have a couple of follow-through questions on that, and I'll come back to you in terms of looking at those benefits. How have you experienced some of those benefits? But before that, a quick comment from you, Oliver. How do you see the evolution of technology driving transformation in business functions over the recent years?
Can you hear me? Oh, fine. Yeah. So for me, technology, AI is everything about that business. Yeah. Everything that is kind of learnable, doable, and so on shall be automated. Whatever can be automated will be automated at the end. For me, the question from a more practitioner's perspective is how to get there. And I think we had two very important elements in here. The number one is the systems landscape. When you look across companies here, there is not just this one global SAP system or so that you can use for anything. So how to get those things together is one, for me, very important part. And the second is the people, and the people translate into a kind of how standardized, how ready are processes to be automated. Yeah. And this for me brings in especially the outsourcing industry in a particular role to concentrate work, label, and to only be able to standardize things, to make it even possible to efficiently automate things here. Not to take automation as a topic per se, but to say, okay, it really does make sense economically.
No, again, a very solid point in terms of saying that, we start from the business and the business requirement first, or business problem first, or the business value first, and then look at technology, because it's not technology, it's about business. I think it's a very, very powerful point, Oliver, which you made. Again, few follow through on that. I'll come back to you. Before that, I'll just take a quick comment from Serge in terms of how do you see this evolution over the last few years?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things happening in this tech transformation for sure in the GBS space, right? And one of the challenges that I've seen over the last couple of years is the balance between, let's say, smaller initiatives, smaller automation initiatives versus bigger platforms, right? Of course, we all want to move more towards larger scale platforms that automate the end-to-end process rather than what we started doing in, 2017, 2018, small automations left and right, very siloed, lots of robots, but then no real tech architecture behind it. But you need to find a balance between both, right? Because the platform is not always a solution. Sometimes you also need to be more tactical with smaller type of automation. So I think it's a balance between big platforms and smaller type of solutions. And another challenge that I've seen is the balance between kind of make or buy, right? With the technology situation at the moment, or everything that's possible with technology at the moment, there's a lot of things that you can either, again, buy through platforms, but they typically tend to be very long, extensive, and expensive implementations, right? Maybe more sustainable in the longer run. But again, if you look at things like Gen AI and automation, AI, machine learning, there's a lot of things you can also build, right? Maybe they're not as scalable or sustainable for the longer term future, but you can move very fast if you're able to build some smaller machine learning type of solutions, for example. So finding this balance between platforms and smaller scale solutions and buying bigger platforms and developing some smaller solutions to transform faster, I think that's a big challenge in the tech transformation, I believe.
No, I think again a fantastic point. So I think if I had to sum it up from the context here is that there is a significant evolution. There's a lot of opportunities we are seeing. We have to, of course, look at people and process. When you look at technology, it is important to connect with the value impact. Certainly, it has to be a business focused. At the same point of time, the dilemma about or balancing between the platform and the smaller solutions. At the same point of time, what to be, what you want to buy, what you want to build is another thing which you have to keep in the mind. So I think it's a good context as we have opened this session. I just want to move into some specifics, looking at, it'll be helpful to hear some examples of the stories. As always say, the stories or the success stories are always great to relate with, that what has worked for you in your context, in your example, where you have seen a successful integration of technology from an enterprise functions point of view. And this is where maybe I'll request Pablo, if you can take a stab to share your experiences, one or two examples of saying, this is where I've seen successful integration of tech in enterprise functions, which has given a result of operational improvements or a value add to the business. Maybe one or two examples quickly, if you can share, it will be good, then we can build on it. Pablo.
Sure. I think we as a corporation are a good example of that. We have grown up mainly due to mergers and acquisitions. When you acquire a company, you acquire the systems, the processes, the people, and so on. And we have gone through the last 4 to 5 years through a very intense process of integrating technology across the entire landscape. What we did, and building on what was being discussed before, is first we define the business operating model. So how do we want our companies to operate, and where is that the standardization that will deliver the value to the entire organization? And with that business operating model, we established a very ambitious transformation plan in terms of technology across the entire landscape. Having presence at the time in 65 countries worldwide, we did an integration of technology and standardization in more than 45 countries in approximately 4 years. That means that we were, today with a very used word of co-pilot, we were co-piloting together with the business their transformation, and we were adding the technology layer on top. That has enabled not only additional shared business services going, from the typical finance and so on, but also the more commercial data and etc., but also significant efficiencies, because we were able, together with the business operating model, to synergize a lot of functions worldwide.
That's great to hear that, and maybe I'll come back to you to hear maybe some more examples in terms of, because I think in your case you are quite distributed in terms of your operations, multi-locations, and you're talking about how standardization really you have leveraged to drive a lot of efficiencies and value, and the whole idea of this co-pilot has really resulted a lot. Maybe I'll come back to you with more examples. I would like to pick your thoughts and experiences on that front. So I'll let you think on that. By the time, I'd like to hear some thoughts from maybe Oliver, your experiences of some specific examples where you have seen there is a successful integration of technology in enterprise functions, be it finance, HR, procurement, etc., where you have seen, oh, this is the kind of improvement we have received, this is the kind of value the business has got. It will be helpful to hear some thoughts from you, Oliver.
Yeah, more than welcome. I'm following up to what Cedric has said. It's a mix of initiatives and just operational topics in a certain country or whatever the level is you're talking about. And so, I can tell you two things. Whenever you make an initiative for automation and so on, you target you target the workforce. Everybody's fighting for autonomy in the countries and so on, and people hate you. So it's a very tough turf, so to say, yeah, for the big initiatives. On the other hand, what you can see, and I can tell from my own experience, yeah, you target a certain country, you sit down together with people, you explain the topic to a certain extent, and I can just report from one country on a simple topic that we used with learning software, yeah, where we had a fully people-driven process, and within only like 6 months, we brought it to an automation level of 97%. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about efficiencies in here. Yeah, that's a couple of hundred people or so. Yeah, but it is only about the readiness of the management to really embark on that route, and that is it. And that for me is everything is possible. You need to find the right entry gate, so to say, and you need to find the right communicators really to initiate those things in here. Yeah.
Good points. And I think we'll build on some of these, but I just want to take a quick, input from Urs yourself. There are again a lot of examples I've seen quoted in terms of process optimization. When we look at, I think even Serge was talking about big platform and some of the smaller solutions where it brings process optimization. But when it comes to looking at the enterprise functions and enterprise functions becoming tech integrated, how do you see that being, taken by the business, given the lot of hurdles which has to be crossed by the business? So how do you see that? What kind of hurdles you think business encounters in these two scenarios, and how they can really look at that? So some thoughts from you.
I see basically three types of hurdles. One is the what also was already mentioned by Oliver, and it's the people's resistance of changing their ways. So there's one hurdle which you need to overcome with, for example, 2 ways. First is management or leadership commitment, where you can get really also kind of the power from the leadership behind it. And then, of course, it's the cultural change which you need to add on, that you get the people to be more into kind of a learning organization, a bit more open to new things, also especially to technology. Then the second part is the second hurdle is always the non-standardization of existing processes, that always need to go into the business and see, okay, how can we get this local or new process into a standardized format, because that's where the efficiency lies when you do a digital transformation as well. And then the third part, which I see, is also a question of the budget always, the money which you have available, because money, time defines then the quality in the end. Yeah. So if you get a good a budget for your projects, then I think it already helps quite a bit to start and kick off.
No, I think that's an important one. I think you talked about that, even the budgets. And this is one area where, as part of our interaction with the industry community, we have seen their struggle is to establish an ROI for many of these tech deployments by saying, they're not able to. And even the recent ground report, which we created as a part of our research, we got some 100-odd, companies responding to it. And as part of the research, we realized that one of the biggest challenge still remains is about establishing a business case. There's a lot of extrapolation on the numbers, but they're not able to really say, okay, this is the value which I'll get by deploying this technology. So until unless there's a lot of money CFO is having and who wants to pass it on to drive transformation, if he wants to be very prudent, to review what is the ROI, it becomes sometimes very difficult to establish that. And this is where I wanted to take some thoughts from maybe Serge, you, and then I'll come to even Sanjeev, to you as well. Serge, your experience where you are seeing this lot of this emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. And now they are really redefining the way we used to look at some of the traditional way of doing business services. In the 2 years, you will find what you were thinking 2 years ago was like difficult. Now it has become possible. And what we are thinking something difficult now, I'm sure in the next 2 years will become much more possible. So some examples, if you can share where you have seen this really working well, and if you have been able to find some method to crack this, if I can say this, crack this code of ROI or a payback. So if you can connect two things, one is in terms of the area, the roles you are seeing with these newer technologies, and have you seen any opportunities to crack this code of ROI? So what you
The $1 million question, no, on the ROI. No, but I think I'm a big fan of machine learning in GBS, right? You know, we've talked about that a lot in the past. I think there's a huge potential for us to transform the way we do GBS if we really embed machine learning capabilities into GBS. And now even with the Gen AI solutions that are available, the progress and the leaps that we can make are crazy, right? I think we're going to see a huge transformation of GBS services in the next 2-3 years once companies start, or GBSs really start adopting these Gen AI solutions. Some examples of things that I've implemented in the past within GBS is how do we bring more intelligence into the process and more, let's say, proactivity, predictability in the process by really plugging machine learning into the operation. So over the last 2-3 years, we've implemented machine learning in a lot of different processes, OTC, P2P, A2R, etc. And I think a recent example, no, in one of the teams that we have here at Kraft Heinz, we have a team in India, I think it's around 90 people, that is gradually taking over all of the BI type of work, let's say, that we do within the company, either with external partners or somewhere within the company. We're centralizing all of those BI type of activities, dashboarding, Tableau, etc., Power BI, in a team that we have in India. Once we have all of those dashboards in place, right, we have like 150, I think, for all different business functions. Again, 90 people preparing all of those dashboards and that visibility. That team now sits on a set of data that if we mine that data, right, and we unleash some of those even basic machine learning algorithms, we can find so much insights that can completely change the decision making in the company. I'll give one simple example. So our team was creating dashboards for, I think it was market share evolution and sales evolution in the UK, right? It's one of the simple dashboards. We provide visibility to sales with market share evolution per SKU, per region, per customer, versus last year, versus the last 3 years, versus budget, and so on. Yeah, we provide all of that visibility. Great dashboard, very interactive. We can drill down, perfect. The challenge I gave to the team was, guys, this is great. You sit on all that data, but instead of just providing the dashboard, now give a recommendation, give a deep insight. Go into the data and provide insights that the users of the dashboard cannot find themselves by selecting data, right? So they put a couple of very basic machine learning algorithms like decision tree analytics, etc. They unleashed some of those algorithms on that data, and within a matter of 2 months, the team started providing insights to the UK business around, hey, I'll just take a hypothetical example. So this SKU, Heinz Beans, has gained market share versus last year. But did you know that the market share evolution in retailer 1 is plus 5%, whereas in retailer 2, it was minus 5%. Overall, as a category, as a SKU, it has grown, but there is a difference between different retailers. So it's very detailed type of information that you can find and that you can present to people in the business by basically mining that data and adding more insights than just providing a dashboard and providing visibility. That's a very, very basic example, right? There's a lot of other examples that we're working on now, which is to become more predictive. How do we predict overdues? How do we predict late payment of invoices? How do we predict whether there is an issue with a reconciliation of of a certain account, right? In the HR team. So there's a lot of examples there where you can do kind of anomaly detection in the massive amount of data that you process in GBS that can help you to solve issues and ultimately drive value, right? And so one target that I have personally here, so we a very target-driven organization, and one of the targets that I have is that the GBS team should deliver every single year $50 million of not savings to the company, that's another KPI, of value to the company. And the value has nothing to do with FTE savings, with automation, with offshoring benefits, has nothing to do with that. That's savings. Value. How do you drive value to the business, right? And this means identifying EBITDA opportunities, identifying business savings, identifying cash flow improvements. And so we have a target to do 50 million of those every single year, which we track and monitor with the CFOs in the business, right? And it's very simple there. The initiative has to be visible in the P&L of the country. And only once it's visible in the P&L of the country, then it basically counts for that target that we've set ourselves.
No, phenomenal. I think this is a fantastic example, Serge, and I think I have a lot of follow-through questions on this, but I'll just come back to you on a couple of points. But I think this 2-3 things which you rightly talked about, the moving from, as in our parlance, we say moving from a lag indicator to lead indicators, because what has happened already has happened. Or there are 4 levels of analytics as we're talking about: descriptive analytics to diagnostic. People move from descriptive, giving some MISs, to diagnostic, and from diagnostic to predictive. Now, the world is also talking about, there are AI solutions or AGI solutions which is saying, go from predictive to prescriptive, where you prescribe what to be done. So decisions are basically taken, and so and so forth. And of course, there's 50 million as a value point which you talked about. So we'll come to that. A quick comment from you, Sanjeev, and then I'll go to Pablo from there. Sanjeev, your experience of dealing on some of these new age technologies. And again, I still want to figure out something on this ROI, because you are a finance professional. So I wanted to hear some thoughts from you on this ROI struggle. How do you deal with it? And then I'll come to Pablo, hearing more examples of artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. So Sanjeev, quick comments.
So yeah, I think, thanks, Rakesh. So the couple of comments on this. First, I think the enterprise functions or enabling areas like finance, HR, IT, talent, they should not be looked in isolation, because what happens in the organization is we do have a strategy which is based on our customer, how we want to operate. And of course, what we are looking at from a customer perspective is how fast we can reach them and what price point, because that's what our competition is doing. And now to reach that, if we are going to enable our front-end businesses sales, we need to make sure that our back-end functions, all supporting functions, are tech integrated, are integrated with the strategy of the business. And companies where we operate in 190 countries, where I'm referring to, where we had a challenge because we had merged many companies and we had multiple systems. So while your backend was not ready, your supporting functions were not integrated, you couldn't implement some of the tools which will enable your sales teams to even go out in the market and offer solutions. So in finance area, for example, we had to bring it on a single platform of multiple instances of SAP into one. Then we had to bring multiple HR systems into one. Then we had to integrate all the functions through ServiceNow, Workday, SAP for HANA, Hyperion. And the biggest thing which enabling enterprise functions do is they enable the front-end teams to go out in the market and offer solutions. Now, coming to the ROI questions, I think it is important. There are 2 factors. One is the cost of compliance, right? Where there is a cost of compliance, we need to implement. There's no other choice. There's no ROI case, because you need to do business and you need to operate. The second part is where the IT, finance, talent, everybody is involved. And it's a business decision, because sometimes you have to invest and the underlying technologies to bring up that. So if organization is trying to be digital, then you need to invest irrespective of the ROI. So I think ROI concept is gone. It's just that when people are implementing RPA or chatbots, we should look at what is the convenience of doing business, how fast we can reach our customers, and how far and how better we can serve our vendors and other people within the organization and outside the organization. So I think ROI question is relative, depending on what you need to do. Underlying technologies like Workday, SAP for HANA, Hyperion, Blackline, etc., their cost of compliance, cost of providing information to business to take strategic decisions. So I think, so it's again very relative. I won't put ROI is the only factor to implement these enabling technologies.
Sure. So I think absolutely right. I think, of course, like things like compliance and the strategic decision about going digital as an organization plays a very important role. And sometimes some of these initiatives are no-brainers because so many organizations have done it. There's a lot of benefit any which ways you're going to accrue over a period of time. Okay, I think there are a couple of questions. I think the Q&A, I request all the live audiences to place their questions if they want to place their questions in the Q&A box. And panelists who are available, if they want to respond online, you can even respond in the chat, the Q&A box, if you want to do that. But before that, I'll just move to Pablo for seeking some of your thoughts on this whole role of artificial intelligence, machine learning. How are you seeing in some of the enterprise functions they're playing an important role? Some examples will be helpful to hear that.
Sure. We started the journey of consolidating data worldwide a few years ago. At the end, applying artificial intelligence algorithms is a matter of having the right data. That's the key prerequisite. We have, and I'm going to talk now about a few examples of use cases that we have developed with AI. But before entering into that, I think we as corporations, we have the big challenge of making sure that the employees and the stakeholders understand the benefits and also the requirements and the pitfalls of the artificial intelligence technology. It's not a technology that will deliver a 100% correct result in most of the cases. So there has to be as well a learning curve across the organization on how to take best advantage of those technologies. We, being a retailer and a food and beverage operator, we have applied artificial intelligence algorithms in several processes. I can name, for instance, in the assortment optimization and in the pricing. So we have today a machine learning algorithms that help us to define the type of products that we should have in the different shops across the world, and also to define what would be the best price according to the competition, the market trends, and so on. This has had an impact in the places where we have rolled it out of a double-digit sales improvement in the relevant categories. So now we are expanding that to the entire portfolio because from a business perspective, the value is immediate. We are now about to release Volta GPT, which is going to be our own version of ChatGPT, and we are going to use it for general topics and allow key people in the organization to upload their own data and question directly about the data, being that they ensuring that data does not exit the company, and therefore we keep the privacy topics controlled. And we are also, as usual, working with AI in finance-related topics, being cash flows and so on. We are also using it for investor relations topic to understand the sentiment of the market, to understand the analysis of the banks in terms of our share price evolution, etc. And now we are working on a very innovative use case, which is that we want to provide our sales assistants at the shop with information in advance of what they should be selling depending on the customer profile. We are based mainly at the airports, so we are capturing information in terms of flights and nationalities. And what we do, what we are already today able to do is we are able to send a message and inform the sales assistant. In the next 4 hours, you're going to have X number of flights coming from this type of nationalities. And this is the type of basket that those customers usually buy. So you should be promoting this type of articles. In case some of the customers buy this specific article, there is also a highly likeliness that they will buy this other type of article. So we are providing a very guided sales assistance way to the sales floor staff.
No, again, I think as a traveler myself, now I know when at a store in airport, any sales representative walk across to me and say, buy this, I know that this is your technology which is working, right? And many of us will remember it now with this example, that the kind of thing we talked about, particularly the kind of improvement on the double digit which you talked about. I think this is really, really very powerful. From even looking at the kind of article which needs to be at the stores and the kind of pricing it needs to have, and supporting the sales representative to really see what they should offer to the travelers makes a lot of business impact. I think that was one of the questions in the chat box as well, by saying, share more examples about business value than just the FT optimization. So I think certainly this is very, very powerful example, Pablo. I just want to take a quick input from you, Oliver, and then we'll go to Urs as well. On, Oliver, as you were sharing in the beginning that this is all about business. This is all about that business impact and the enterprise. This technology is not about technology. It's about how you look at the business. So what do you think are a few critical success factors for businesses to really achieve the successful digital transformation journey in the enterprise function? So some thoughts from you on those critical success factors will be helpful, Oliver.
So shall I start? Yeah, so I think we have already touched it to a certain extent, yeah. And that is, again, here, you can approach the topic from both sides, from what is technically feasible, what is available in terms of AI and yeah, and what is the real actual situation from a working perspective. We're talking big corporations here. We're talking about multiple countries and so on. Yeah, people working different processes every day, like they are used to for sometimes decades. Yeah, you have an accountant somewhere in a country who has been doing things the same way for like 20, 30 years and so on. Yeah, so whenever you overtake any such process over, you need to really put him into a shape that it is really automatable, and this kind of standardization work is, and for me, a very labor-intensive task. This is a task which requires a lot of people intelligence. From my own background, I can say we have built up armies of green and black belt people to really dig into things and to find, and that's the most important thing. Everybody in all the countries, they talk about the particularity of their own country and their own processes and so on, but it is about to detect the similarities. Yeah, and at the end, it's all not so diverse as people think. Yeah. And but this is, for me, this is a very, very strong message here, even into that round, as everybody's talking about AI and machine and blah, 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 and so on. This is a very important role for people working for the next, I don't know, coming years at least, yeah? And this is, for me, the big prerequisite really to enter the next stage. What comes after is, of course, anything is open. And I like very much the perspective to say, okay, we're not only looking on a simple ROI calculation here, but what is really the value for the company, and that needs to be determined then on the specific case. And again, here I come back to what I said before. I have my doubts that you will have to ask for a kind of global initiative for a certain company or corporation, but it is rather area A or B or process A or B or so, yeah, that you can really say, okay, this is something that we're going to find a solution for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think you made a very interesting comment in terms of that variations people talk about that by saying as a country we are different, everything is different, and how once you start diving into it, you realize that what are those similarities rather just looking at what are those variations, if I have to say that. And the second one, I think, very important point you're also talking about is that before even getting into anything, it is also important to understand based on available technologies and the current context of the organization, what is possible. Because each company has a different context, right? Because they'll be in a different journey, maturity, etc. So how to look at that maturity. And in fact, there's a very interesting, a framework which we talk about is something we say BIC to BIC. The first BIC stands for best in class, where you understand what's happening. And then your second is best in context, where you contextualize it for that organization.
Yeah.
As we are rightly saying that, Kraft is different versus, Avolto or Metro or Deloitte and so on. I'm just taking example of few of the companies. They're all a different maturity curve. We need to understand that. So I think the very important point which you're saying is to be kept in the mind as we look at driving those digital transformation, and hence the critical success factor has to be looked from that context very clearly. A quick comment from you, Urs, based on your experience around some of the areas of looking at, if I have to say, when we look at technology, while in the beginning Sanjeev was talking about people and process and so on and so forth, how much human really is involved in driving some of these, technology? How do you connect that technology with this entire human-centric approach? There's a lot of sensitivity. I think there was a question also in the Q&A box about the change management, for instance. I think there's a question from Vikas about, there's a lot of technology available, but the change is still a difficult one. Now, the difference is earlier we used to talk about a lean project. You will have one kind of a change manager requirement. Now you're talking about enterprise-wide technology. The change requirement is slightly different. It needs more digital narratives and so on and so forth. So the question here is how you look at some of that will be helpful to hear that. So some quick comment from you, Urs, will be helpful.
I think the people, as everybody said, people are in the center. And it's about training, enabling, getting people on board on what you are doing, make them understand. But this starts, of course, with a clear vision and strategy of the organization, of the business. Anyway, you shouldn't implement any digital solution without really having a business purpose behind it. And then people will also understand, and you need to upskill the people constantly. It sounds like when you do digital transformation, you want to get rid of the people, but we always said we don't want to get rid of the people. We want to give them some better tasks, no repetitive tasks. We want to upskill them to do more interesting work for them as well. And the moment you're able to convey this message to your colleagues, to your staff, to your team, however you call them, they will be able to join you on that journey of transformation. And like this, you will be able to also get them on board. And this also, I mean, you need to have the vision, you need to have tools which brings the whole thing forward, and which they also like to use. Again, back to upskilling. When you train them in the new tools, they will start to like them. And if the tools are set up right, they will really use them. If they're not set up right, no tool will be used by the people. Involve them in the whole setup.
Good point. Good point. So you're saying it's not, I think that reluctance has to be, changed by taking them through as a part of the journey. And I think at least over the last 20 years, organizations and the people have understood that they will have more opportunities, if not with this kind of a change. So I think that is important and to be kept in the mind. But I
And
just
take the
have a
most,
very
sorry,
good.
just to add one, take the most critical ones on board because they will challenge you most and they will get your solution, the best solution.
Good point. Good point. Absolutely. So get some more people to be part of it who can really, support it. Sanjeev, quick comments from you in your experience. How have you looked at this balance between, human centricity and the technology?
I think this is a very delicate question, which is a lot of people are struggling with kind of automation we are seeing in the transaction processing and everywhere. And especially with AI coming in, we had a session and we looked at internally. And I'm not predicting something, but I'm just putting numbers that with AI coming in next 18 to 24 months, we'll have at least 40% of people in Java, Python, more or less redundant or more or less looking out for something else. So I think what people are doing, instead of earlier we used to invest on leadership skills and management skills, etc. Now, most of the organizations we work for and internally with us, we're creating a technical team at a different level, which is looking at upgrading our people because you can't get rid of people. You need to bring them on board. You need to upskill them and you need to bring them on board. And as Urs said, we need to bring the critical ones on board. We need to train people. So what we are doing is a training need analysis to see what people are good at, what is the skill assessment, what they bring on table, and where they can be cross-leveraged across the organizations. And that's a big management of change. So I think a separate function, which is bringing people on board, what we are trying to do, bring them on board with the strategic objective and vision, and also helping them with the availability of training, skills, and technical team who bring them on board. And what we have done also with the invent of new technologies and all that, because something which is very relevant is campus to corporate. We now work in the second year of colleges itself to bring them on board on the new technology so that when they come, they are employable. We don't spend 6 months, 8 months, 9 months to train them and then, struggle with them. So you need to start investing in people. You need to bring them on board and you need to understand what they need and what they're good at. So I think skill assessment, management of change, bringing a technical training team, which is as good as your leadership training team into a play will be an important going forward, I would say.
Excellent points. I think excellent points, particularly this campus to corporate. And I think the way you are looking at it is very important. And this is where I think we have seen organizations really struggling because the kind of, and again, the ground report I was talking about, the research we did, we realized that, the intent is to have a lot of this talent onboarded, but there is also a challenge of these talent. While there's a different talent available, you have to groom them, build them, etc., etc. But something which is like readily available talent of this nature is a huge opportunity. And this is where I wanted to come to you, Serge, to receive some thoughts from you in terms of how are you looking at, building that kind of a talent readiness. Because we talked about two parts, and if you can connect these two questions in a way, if I have to say quickly, one is this value delivery which you're talking about. So it's a different mindset altogether. How are you getting your talent navigates toward this value delivery mindset and the kind of tech readiness which is required to deliver on that? If you can just touch upon these 2 points, will be helpful.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the value mindset is really a mindset that needs to change, right? I mean, for sure, in a GBS environment, we're always very focused on KPIs, on SLAs, day-to-day routine, etc. That's where our focus is, right? We have a certain scope, we need to deliver it, we need to deliver it really well. Bringing that value mindset is a completely different mindset. And I can share one example. Okay, this one is already like 3 years old or something, but I think it's one of the best examples that I've seen in my career of how a team that in a GBS space is very, very transactional. It's a master data team. right? So this is a team that really manages the master data. They create customers, they create SKUs, change payment terms in the system, whatever. They get requests to change data in the master data, they update. And so when we had this challenge, of driving $50 million of value, we allocated that challenge across all the different departments, right? Of course, a big part goes to OTC, which you can say is easy because they manage cash, right? So they will find opportunities in terms of cash flow, etc. And we also gave a challenge to the master data team and said, you guys need to deliver $1 million. Team was like shocked. Said, how can we create $1 million in value, in tangible EBITDA savings? How we just create data in the system. How can we say? Doesn't matter. Think about it. Your target and your variable compensation is going to be based upon the team delivering $1 million of value that I can see in the P&L of the company. Of course, big crisis, in the beginning when we tried to, or when we gave the team a challenge. Now, one thing that we did at that point in time, and that's where I think, yes, there's a lot that we need to do in terms of upskilling, but there's also a lot that we need to do in terms of org design. Yeah. So if you want to do this transformation, you need to look at the way you organize your teams, upskill teams to be more tech enabled, be more analytics enabled, etc. But at the same time, I believe you also need to make changes in the team and inject skills from the outside, right? You need to have an ideal team in GBS today, nowadays, for me, exists out of a group of people who are functional experts in the domain, right? In this case, master data experts, operational people. A certain percentage, 5 to 10%, has hardcore tech skills or hardcore analytics skills. Analytics, I mean machine learning, mainly. Okay. So if you have a team of 10 people, I would say you put one tech person, you put one ML engineer, and you put 8 people who run the day-to-day, right? So what we did at that point in time is we put one manager to lead that team who had a tech background. Yeah, no master data background, a tech background. By doing that change and basically incentivizing the team to deliver, that $1 million, they started looking at their business completely differently. So they did their day-to-day, great. When they were done, they started looking at, okay, how can we drive value with the data that we basically have access to? It took them about 3 months to come with an initiative in which they had identified. So one of the sets of data that they managed was spare parts. Spare parts in all the different plants, across the globe, and they identified an opportunity to reallocate spare parts between plants, because each of the plants was looking at their spare parts individually in a silo in their individual plant. They were restocking spare parts based upon their need, and other plants were not needing certain spare parts that they had in stock. So basically what they did, they looked at all that data, identified an opportunity where we could avoid paying or buying new spare parts, because some plants were not using spare parts and others were highly using a certain set of spare parts. They reallocated, together with the supply team, they reallocated spare parts between the plants. They delivered like $1.5 million of savings. Hard savings, because the plants were about to order spare parts that we could basically reallocate from stocks in different plants. This is a master data team. This is how you change the mindset of the team. Instead of doing the transactions, automate the transactions, look into the data and think, how do I drive value to the business?
Very true. Very true. Very true.
No.
Absolutely phenomenal. And I think maybe just a quick comment on that, Pablo, from you as well. I think because you also shared a lot of similar examples around value delivery. So how do you look at that change in the mindset of the team which is working on it, or the talent, skill to be developed, who can look at some of these values? So some thoughts from you, Pablo, will be helpful.
Sure. Look, we are basing the development of the talent in several aspects. On one hand, we are providing the tools to get that training, which we are using several tools in the market and creating the content for it. On another aspect, we are partnering with companies that provide a specific training regarding certain types of technologies or processes. But there are two other topics related to this that I believe are key. On one hand is to keep the constant communication with the people. So to make sure that everybody is constantly updated with what's happening in the organization, where are we going, what are we changing, the type of technologies that we are implementing, the type of processes that we are updating, and so on. And to keep that communication as close to them as possible. So not only doing video conferences, but also try to be face-to-face with the teams as much as we can. We believe that brings an extra layer of motivation to the entire staff. And also we are adding certain type of KPIs, as was mentioned before, where we are kind of supporting people to get training, supporting people to get certificates, and having that as one of the measures within their bonus, within their management bonus. So we are trying to link it to different angles.
Sure. Absolutely. I think very, very important points. I think we are pretty much the top of the hour from the time point of view. And I know a few of you have to leave as well. I just thought quickly to run through these 8 or 9 questions which are in the Q&A, and if any areas where we would like to comment and contribute. I think the first question, technology landscape changing so fast, and the change management, I think we have already covered that as a part of the discussion. The second one was about, from Savanan, can the panelists spell out any key business value? I think we have got a lot of examples on the business value beyond the FT optimization examples. The next one from Sachin is, how are GCCs looking at, this is a good one. If either you, Sanjeev, or Serge, you want to make a quick comment on this one. Because there's a lot of thinking around the FT-based pricing or a cost-based charge out, maybe.
Yeah, Rakesh, I can take. I've seen very current examples of outcome-based pricing. So that's where the world is moving, because since there's a lot of automation, so the volume-based and FT-based is going away. So it's mostly outcome-based, and there are KPIs around it. So that's where people are moving towards.
Okay. That's powerful. Any thoughts from you, Serge, where you're seeing that there's a change in terms of the model, the charge out mechanism?
I think that the time of just cost savings is far behind us, right? I think now as a GBS, you need to deliver business value. The cost savings have been delivered, the labor arbitrage has been delivered. So doing an automation every year of 5%, 6%, 7%, okay, that's great. But there is so much more that you can do by driving business value than cost savings. That it's not about the FTE savings anymore, I think. Of course, you need to do, right? There is always a basic percentage of automation and optimization that you need to drive. But as a leading GBS, you need to be driving value, right? More than offshoring or FTE savings.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think the next question was even responded in the discussion, some of the performance indicators to be gauged. And I think it's very important that from a mindset, if you change your KPI from cost saves, FT saves, and so on and so forth, to look at value realization, like you're talking about, Serge, that 50 mil, or even outcome-based pricing, as Sanjeev, you talked about, and when Pablo and Oliver were talking about it, we have business impact. When you change what you are tracking, you will find the mindset also shift really happens from that point of view.
And Rakesh, just to add, most of the GCs now, if the CFO has a target of DPO, days payable outstanding, or days sales outstanding, that falls onto the GCCs to do it, because without the GCs, they can't do it. So I think we talked about vendor master data, having the right payment terms, having the right master data, having the right payment cash flows. So I think these are all outcomes and values, as Serge said. So DPOs, DSOs, days inventory outstanding, I think these are the KPIs which are being tracked rather than being, invoices paid, how much write through, how much accuracy and all that. Those are gone. Those are not being tracked as such.
Very right, very right, very right. And I'll request all the panelists to jump in with some of these questions to make comments, because we'll have a couple of more minutes to receive any comments. I think the next question was about what are the key factors that can aid us to accelerate the value extraction business outcome from tech initiative. I think we discussed that, but I think anybody wants to still amplify this specific point by saying, what can really accelerate that value extraction faster or the business outcomes faster? Any comments on that?
Maybe I can comment on that one.
Yeah.
We have heard a lot of very, very great examples in here of specific topics where there was a certain case and there was a solution to that case, and that brought some kind of result. What my purpose over the last 10 years always was to create this self-learning organization, and to really have a climate in the office where you have really appreciation of progress, not a defense of the status quo or something like that or so, yeah. So, and it is not, if you have a good idea about how doing things different, is not blaming anybody else in a way to say you could have done better or so, yeah. But in that sense, it can go into cost savings and can go into value add direction. There's no restriction to either way, yeah? But to really have this, I always called it campus atmosphere, yeah? Especially when you're talking about this, this very high volume business and so on. No person in this world is really fond of doing the same fucking thing, so to say, every day, on and on and on and on and on. And every person feels good if he or she gets a little bit of attention and somebody recognizing of what he or she is doing. And there's so much brain in the organizations. And again, here from the topic that we're coming from and that we're heading for is not before, but on the way of making AI really applicable and really usable. I mean, we have so much resources and we have so much intelligence in the workforces of our companies, and I really appreciate those people, yeah.
Absolutely. I think we're talking about just creating that culture, which is very, very important to accelerate, if I had to summarize that. I think I can see Mr. Praveen Purang making a confirmation that apart from cost reduction, how these really can impact business partners, vendors, dealers, bankers, etc., for efficiency enhancements and zero error. I think that's absolutely right. Because is a question, isn't it right to say that for any automation to succeed, the best barometer is to see if we can eliminate work rather than automate work? Okay, that's interesting. How can we reduce inflow of invoices, exceptions, rather than look at automating processes? Yeah, I can see, Serge, you are saying you're going to answer it live. So you want to answer it quickly?
Yeah, I think that's an obvious one, right? Of course, you don't want to automate the mess, right? And do inefficiencies faster. That doesn't make any sense. So I think first you need to follow like a typical Six Sigma type of approach, right? Remove the waste of the process, optimize the process. And once this is in place, then you can look at how do I further automate? Otherwise, yeah, you're just gonna create a mess faster, which is not the purpose.
Right. I think the one last question is there, and I think I'd like to connect that with literally a rapid fire with all of us as a closing comment, is twofold. I think with more and more technology usage, there's also this challenge of privacy, as I think recently we looked at. I think every data is pretty much now, you don't know where your data is, right? While there's a lot of ring fencing organizations are trying to play, but with more and more technology, more and more artificial intelligence, more and more machine learning, the challenge of that privacy, the data, is something which is a challenge. So any quick comments from all of you, and I'll request all of you, just a quick 30 seconds comment from all of you. How do you see the next few years, the next 2 years, in terms of the evolution of the technology, and also taking care of some things like privacy and some of these down sides of this artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc.? So maybe you want to go Pablo first?
Yeah. Look, I think, for instance, already in Europe, they are taking measures to ensure that the privacy of the customer, the privacy of the data of the customer is taken into consideration, and it's going to be more and more restricted in the future, in my opinion. I think we have saw as well with the pandemic that the customers moved. I'm talking now in the retail space, moved significantly into the online commerce, but now they are coming back to the physical commerce. So I think that there's going to be a good mix in the future of people still liking to have the face-to-face and the physical and human interaction, and probably the mix of technology and human interaction is going to be balanced. And I don't believe that the technology will completely take over the entire space.
Absolutely a great perspective. Urs, some quick comments from you. How do you see the next wave?
I'm very careful about predicting the future because nobody predicted ChatGPT, nobody predicted the internet in the 90s. So it's or iPhone, yeah. But definitely, I agree with what Pablo says. The interaction will be much more multi-faced, and in the end, we need to really keep technology close to a purpose. Technology does not have a purpose by itself. It has a purpose within the business strategy and out of the view from a company. We really need to see what is our vision, what is our strategy, and use technology accordingly.
Fantastic, fantastic. Quick comment from you, Sanjeev, then we'll go to Serge and Oliver. So Sanjeev first.
Yeah, Rakesh, a couple of things from my side. One, we need to be more adaptable to the new technologies. It will come. We can't stop it. The second thing is customer preferences will change. And the third thing which I'm predicting is the business model will change with the AI and everything coming in. The traditional businesses, the way we do business will change definitely. And one important thing with AI coming in, that we need to be ethical in privacy because there are a lot of concerns on non-being ethical and the way the data being shared. And so there's a concern there out. And I think we need to be very careful while we implement new technologies, AI and cognitive and everything else, that needs to be ethical, and that's important.
Absolutely, absolutely. We need to be ethical, and business models will change. Serge, quick comments from you, and then Oliver, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I'm most excited about the Gen AI opportunity. I think it's evolving so extremely fast. We're doing a couple of pilots here in Kraft Heinz in the next couple of months together with Microsoft. So I'm really looking forward to the outcome of those pilots, because this can really transform GBS a lot, can have a huge impact on the experience of our users, on our efficiency. And the challenge will be, how do we redefine the role of our teams? Right? Because a lot of the transactional work indeed will be completely automated and taken over by this Gen AI. And then how do we redefine the role of our teams and then actually upskill people? That's going to be the big challenge.
Absolutely, absolutely. And once you are having some great success, do share with all of us. Oliver, quick comments from you.
Okay, last but not least, yeah, I don't think it is not only about that we're not able to avoid new technologies, but I really appreciate it. Yeah, so it's good that these things are going to come, but it is a process. And like Sergio has just said, it requires a lot of communication to the people. And this is, for me, very important, not to lose people on that path. And the second thing is to make it economically a good idea. It is about to find the right entry point into it. And that is human work. So a lot of human work to be done before we really achieve those efficiency levels that we're all looking for. But again, here, all appreciated, not something bad or so. I like it.
Great. So I think it was lovely talking to each one of you, and thanks for sharing your perspectives. I think on behalf of SSF Global, it's my duty to express gratitude and sincere thanks to each one of you. Thank you, Dr. Oliver, for joining. Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev Rastogi, for joining. Thank you, Serge, for taking time amidst a busy schedule to join. Thank you, Pablo, for joining for this session. And thank you, Urs, to make this happen from Basel. So it was lovely having all of you. And there is a link to the recorded session available, which can be available for sharing as well as for the leaders to watch it later. And thanks all the delegates and participants who could join live on the Zoom as well as also on the YouTube and SSF platform. We may have received some of your questions separately. We could have not taken all the questions now, but do dropping in your questions. We'll see how we can get more responses in the later webinars like this. Have a great day and a great weekend ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.